Top 10 gemstones to invest in before 2026. Since the beginning of wealth itself, humanity has sought what cannot be forged, cannot be printed, and cannot be erased. Not stocks, not currencies, not even gold, but stones, born in silence, buried beneath time, pressure, and geological violence. For centuries, they've existed beyond the grasp of markets, not because they were worthless, but because they were invisible, hidden in vaults, passed through whispers, never needing headlines to command value. This is the other side of the investment world, where rarity isn't declared, it's discovered, where ownership isn't public, it's private, and where the most potent assets don't ask to be seen, they vanish before the world realizes what it lost. This list reveals 10 gemstones poised to rise in value and reshape how we define tangible wealth. Each one is real and rare and is already being quietly acquired by collectors, family offices, and those preparing for a world where beauty becomes capital. But timing is everything, and the window? It closes by 2026. Not because these stones will disappear, but because access will. Don't forget to press and hold that like button, leave a comment, and hit subscribe before we begin. Ranked 10th, Zircon, the ancient flame. They all forgot. Before there was diamond, before there was gold, there was zircon, a gemstone born from Earth's first breath. In the ancient rock beds of Western Australia, scientists unearthed a tiny shard of this stone, dated at 4.4 billion years old, the oldest known solid object on the planet. Long before oceans existed and continents formed, zircon was already here, crystallized when Earth was still molten. And yet in the modern market, this ancient flame has been overlooked, misnamed, and misunderstood. Many confuse it with cubic zirconia, a cheap synthetic, and zircon's actual value has been buried for decades. But unlike the imitation, natural zircon is a geological marvel. It exhibits intense brilliance, vivid color, and in many varieties, a rare optical phenomenon called double refraction, splitting light into fire, making it burn from within. For investors, it represents something more than beauty. It is the oldest investable asset on Earth. The market has barely begun to recognize its potential. Prices for top-grade blue, honey gold, and orange zircons still hover between $150 to $800 per carat, wildly undervalued considering their rarity and optical quality. Cambodian blue zircon supply has dropped 60% in the past 3 years, and Tanzanian sources are becoming increasingly unreliable. Yet demand, especially in Asia, is rising fast. By 2026, collectors and luxury jewelers are expected to pivot back toward heritage stones like zircon. And when that happens, the pricing floor will lift permanently. This isn't just a beautiful gem. It's a time-sensitive opportunity. Because when supply collapses, there's no way to print more. There is no way to synthesize legacy. Zircon is one of the few remaining stones where value and invisibility coexist. But not for long. Before 2026, it's a whisper. After 2026, it may become a market legend everyone remembers. But no one can afford it. Not every investment roars. Some burn quietly into history. Ranked 9th, Lolite, the compass stone, that's finding its way back. In the age of raw navigation, long before magnetic compasses or satellites, seafarers crossed open oceans with nothing but the wind, the stars, and a crystal. That crystal was iolite. To the Viking navigators of the North Atlantic, thin slivers of this violet-blue stone served as natural polarizing filters. Even on overcast days, it revealed the position of the sun. A stone not just worn, but trusted with survival. And yet, after centuries of quiet service, iolite fell into near total obscurity. It never vanished. It simply waited. Today, as the gemstone investment world looks beyond the saturated markets of diamond and sapphire, iolite has begun to flicker back onto radar screens. What once led ships now guides smart capital. Precisely because most of the world still hasn't remembered it exists. But those who look closely are noticing its key signature, pleochroism. It is a rare optical phenomenon where a single stone displays multiple colors, violet from one angle, steel blue from another, and sometimes hints of smoky yellow-gray in the right light. It's a unique trait that can't be duplicated by lab-grown stones or common substitutes, making each fine iolite specimen a singular work of geological art. From an investor's perspective, this uniqueness creates pricing inefficiencies, the sweet spot between beauty and anonymity. In the current market, high-quality iolite remains undervalued. Prices for untreated, well-cut stones between 3 to 7 carats often sit under $200 per carat, a fraction of similarly sized sapphires. But here's the catch. Finding clean iolite of that size is becoming increasingly complex. Mining output in Madagascar and Sri Lanka has shown signs of plateauing. Meanwhile, collector interest, particularly in Japan and parts of Europe, is rising quietly but steadily, creating the early signs of a tightening squeeze. Iolite doesn't need hype. Its value isn't built on myth or marketing. It's built on optics, scarcity, and mispriced beauty. And now, with a global shift toward natural, untreated stones, iolite is poised to emerge from the margins, not with fanfare, but with strategic movement, the kind that doesn't trend on social media but reshapes auction tables behind closed doors. By 2026, the balance will likely tip. Not because iolite suddenly changed, but because the market finally caught up. And those who moved early, they won't just own stones. They'll hold the asset that once helped humanity cross oceans and now allows investors to move across cycles. Ranked 8th, Sphene, the light that outshines logic. Some stones reflect light, some stones glow. And then there is Sphene, a gem so densely packed with optical fire that it fractures reality. In gemological terms, Sphene displays a phenomenon known as dispersion, the ability to split white light into a rainbow of spectral color. Diamonds are prized for this trait, but Sphene? Sphene does it better. Technically, it shouldn't be this brilliant. Titanite's name comes from its high titanium content, but what truly matters to investors isn't the chemistry, it's the physics. Sphene is an optical event trapped in crystal form with a refractive index and fire dispersion that surpasses diamond and pleochroism, shifting from golden to green to amber. The problem and the opportunity lies in its size. Because most sphenes are tiny, the stone's natural softness and brittleness make it incredibly difficult to cut and facet. That's why clean, well-cut stones above 3 carats are borderline mythical. And that rarity isn't just geological, it's logistical. Mines in Pakistan, Madagascar, and Brazil produce limited quantities each year. Most never reach fine gem quality, and few still reach investment portfolios. But the ones that do, they don't just sit in safes, they demand conversation. For now, Sphene remains an insider's gem. Few public auctions. There is little media coverage. But in elite gem circles, particularly among European private collectors and precision cutters in Idar Oberstein, Sphene is becoming a quiet obsession. Its price trajectory, once flat, has started to bend upward. In 2021, fine Sphene traded around $50 per carat. Today, stones above 5 carats with excellent dispersion are pushing $300 to $600 per carat, with projected increases as supply narrows and high-tech imaging and jewelry begins to showcase the gem's fire digitally. Sphene is not for the mass market, and that's precisely why it belongs in an investor's vault, not a retail shelf. While the world chases branding and popularity, Sphene remains untouched by fashion cycles. Its value is intrinsic and measurable in the way it bends physics itself. The upside is not speculative for those who acquire now, before gem labs and auction houses shift focus. It's scientific. Not every portfolio needs to sparkle. But one stone that fractures light like this, it doesn't just diversify assets, it multiplies brilliance. Something worth holding before 2026 turns it from curiosity into a commodity. Ranked 7th, Spinel, the imposter that outlived a throne. For centuries it wore the wrong crown, nestled in royal regalia, from the Black Prince's ruby in the British crown jewels to the thrones of Mughal emperors. Spinel was mistaken for something else, something more famous, something people thought had more value. They called it ruby, and they were wrong. By the time science caught up, the damage was done. Despite its vivid hues and royal legacy, Spinel was downgraded to an afterthought, a gemstone trapped in a case of mistaken identity. But markets have long memories, and occasionally they correct their mistakes, violently. In recent years, Spinel has surged back into focus, not because of nostalgia, but because of performance. Unlike ruby, Spinel doesn't require treatment. Its reds, fierce and open, are natural. Its pinks and blues rival sapphire, and its neon orange varieties like Mahenge Spinel from Tanzania have lit up auctions with figures once reserved for emeralds. From an investor's perspective, Spinel sits at the intersection of scarcity, purity, and momentum. The finest Burmese red Spinels, once overlooked, are now commanding $2,000 to $10,000 per carat in high-end auctions. Mahenge pinks, found only in a now-depleted deposit from the early 2000s, are vanishing from the market. And cobalt blue Spinel, sourced primarily from Vietnam, has begun to surface in exclusive private sales, fetching per-carat prices comparable to top-tier sapphires. But here's where the window narrows. Spinel isn't just rare, it's becoming unrepeatable. Most major Spinel deposits are either exhausted or inaccessible. Unlike ruby and sapphire, no large-scale synthetic industry is muddying the market. That means what's already in circulation may represent the final wave of collectible quality Spinel. And yet, the pricing, while rising, still trails behind its color-grade peers. This lag between value and recognition creates a brief but critical opportunity. Once luxury houses and global jewelers align on Spinel's corrected status, once it's no longer the stone that used to be mistaken for ruby, but the stone that replaced it, the shift will be permanent. Spinel isn't reclaiming a throne, it's building a new one. And for the investor who understands historical mispricing, this is more than a gemstone. It's a second chance the market rarely offers twice. Ranked 6th, Chrysoberyl cat's eye, the sentinel of fortune. Some gemstones sparkle, others shimmer, but this one watches. At the heart of Chrysoberyl cat's eye lies a narrow beam of light, a luminous slit that floats across the surface, following the viewer like a living presence. Known in gemology as chatoyancy, it's an optical illusion caused by tightly packed needle-like inclusions inside the stone. But to cultures across Asia, it has always meant something more. A guardian, a protector, a sign that the unseen is watching. In Sri Lanka and southern India, this gemstone is revered as a symbol of wealth and vigilance. It is said to deflect misfortune, absorb envy, and keep its owner one step ahead of unseen threats. For centuries, merchants, kings, and spiritual leaders sought it for its beauty and the power they believed it held. Today, that ancient reverence has collided with modern scarcity. Top-tier Chrysoberyl cat's eyes, with perfect eyes centered cleanly, cutting sharply across the dome, are exceedingly rare. Most commercial stones show only partial bands or blurred effects. Investment-grade specimens demand precise orientation, flawless cabochon cutting, and minimal body inclusions. And when all three converge in a single stone, the result is a gemstone with no equivalent, optical or spiritual. The investment world has noticed, in the past decade, demand from collectors in India, Hong Kong, and Japan has driven up prices for fine stones above $5,000 per carat, with exceptional pieces crossing $30,000. But here's the twist. The market remains culturally concentrated. Western buyers have barely entered the race. As global diversification in gem auctions increases, particularly in Sotheby's and Bonham's Asian-led lots, this gemstone is poised to break regional boundaries. Supply, however, won't follow that curve. Significant deposits in Sri Lanka and Brazil no longer produce large transparent crystals. Many existing stones are locked in family heirlooms or temple vaults, never to re-enter circulation. What remains on the market is finite and growing more valuable by the year. This isn't a stone you buy for fashion. You buy it for its presence, and it's a rarity. Ranked 5th, Grandidierite, the ocean that refused to be captured. Some gems are valuable, some are elusive. This one is both, and remains unnamed in the hearts of most. Discovered in 1902 near the southern shores of Madagascar, Grandidierite was named after French explorer Alfred Grandidierite, who charted the island's forgotten corners. But even he never saw it in its final form. Faceted, polished, alive. For over a century, this stone remained an academic curiosity, a mineral entry, a whisper in the backs of gemological journals. Then something changed. In 2014, a single deposit yielded a handful of translucent material, enough to cut a few carat-quality stones. The effect stunned experts, a surreal blend of blue-green, neither emerald nor aquamarine, shifting depending on the angle of light. It is not transparent, it is not opaque, just deep, like holding the ocean in the palm of your hand, knowing it won't stay still for long. Grandidierite doesn't sparkle like sapphire. It glows, quietly like a thought that hasn't finished forming. That quality, impossible to copy or mass-produce, now makes it one of the top 3 rarest gemstones ever found. As of 2025, fewer than 1,000 gem-quality stones are believed to exist worldwide, most under 2 carats. The original deposit near Fort Dauphin has since collapsed. Other finds have been unpredictable, shallow, or exhausted within months. Meanwhile, prices for top-grade translucent stones have leaped from $3,000 to over $30,000 per carat, with no signs of leveling. Because supply isn't just limited. It's fragmented, scattered between geology and chance. There is no synthetic equivalent. There is no commercial campaign. Only quiet demand, growing. Grandidierite is not yet a household name, and that's precisely why 2026 marks the final window for strategic acquisition. Once luxury markets move beyond sapphire saturation, the hunger for exotic blue-green stones will ignite. And when it does, Grandidierite won't be ready, because Grandidierite was never made to scale. It was made to appear, briefly, in the hands of those willing to search beyond trend, beyond branding, beyond the surface. Some stones define wealth, others define taste. But Grandidierite defines patience as the kind of asset that whispers not how much, but how long will it last? And for those who find it in time, the answer may be longer than expected, rarer than believed, and far more valuable than priced. Ranked 4th, Paraíba Tourmaline, the electric pulse of a dying vein. It began with a glow that shouldn't have existed. In the late 1980s, deep beneath the mountains of Paraíba, Brazil, miners uncovered something the world had never seen, a gemstone pulsed with electric blue, not soft, not pastel, but neon, as if lightning had struck copper and frozen the shock. At first they thought it was an illusion. It wasn't. It was Paraíba Tourmaline, and within a few years that mine, that miracle, was nearly empty. What makes this stone exceptional isn't just its color, it's the physics behind it. Trace amounts of copper and manganese interact in ways still not fully understood. No other tourmaline, no other gemstone, refracts light like this. The glow seems to come from inside, not from the surface. This isn't a gem that reflects beauty, it generates it. From a market perspective, Paraíba Tourmaline has become the modern blueprint for hyper-appreciation. In the early 2000s, it traded for hundreds per carat. By the 2010s, prices crossed $10,000 per carat. Today, flawless stones above 5 carats from the original Brazilian source are priced above $80,000 to $100,000 per carat when they appear. But here's the edge investors need to understand. The term Paraíba now legally applies to neon blue tourmalines from Nigeria and Mozambique, stones that resemble the Brazilian original, but rarely match its saturation, internal structure, or historical value. Yet the market doesn't always distinguish. This means most buyers are chasing color, while the real opportunity lies in origin, because the original Paraíba mine is done. No new significant discoveries have emerged in Brazil, and among collectors and gem labs, Brazilian provenance is already being treated as a separate tier, a classification of legacy. This is what creates urgency. While Mozambique and Nigeria continue to produce similar stones, supply is unstable and fraud is rising. Meanwhile, museums and ultra-high net worth collectors are quietly moving to lock down certified Brazilian origin gems, particularly those with lab verification and strong provenance. These stones are becoming rare enough to insure, but too rare to sell. Paraíba doesn't behave like other investments. It isn't correct. It doesn't crash. It disappears. And for investors who recognize the signals early, the question isn't whether to enter. It's whether they can still find one before the door closes. Because unlike other gems, this one doesn't just shine, it burns. Ranked third, red beryl, the scarlet secret that shouldn't exist. Some stones are rare because they are hard to find. This one is rare because nature wasn't supposed to make it. Born in the remote Wah-Wah Mountains of Utah, red beryl emerged from a geological alignment so precise, so violently specific, that it has never been repeated, not anywhere else on Earth. It required beryllium-rich gas to rise through volcanic cracks. It needed manganese, and it needed the perfect pressure, heat, and mineral scaffolding to form something no lab has ever fully replicated. A red emerald. Gemologists call that not as marketing, but as science. Red beryl is a close cousin of emerald and aquamarine, sharing the same chemical family. But the resemblance ends there. Because while emeralds are mined by the ton, red beryl is measured in grams. For every 150,000 diamonds mined, one red beryl appears in gem quality. And of those, most are too small to facet. Stones over 2 carats, practically unheard of. That's not market hype. That's a statistical reality. From an investment lens, red beryl is no longer an emerging gem. It is a vanishing class of asset. The only known commercial mine, the Ruby Violet claim in Utah, has been closed for years. No new significant deposits have been found. Private sales still occur, but they're quiet, protected, and increasingly curated through dealers who no longer advertise what they're holding. Meanwhile, prices for clean, faceted stones between 1 and 2 carats have tripled in the last decade, some now exceeding $20,000 per carat. Larger documented stones with traceable provenance are no longer sold traditionally. They're assigned, reserved, and transferred. There's no futures market for red beryl, no synthetic lookalikes flooding demand. There is no artificial inflation. What exists is all that will ever exist. This is why, before 2026, red beryl presents a uniquely binary proposition. Either it enters your collection now, or it never does. Because this is not just a gem. It is the final breath of a volcanic alignment the Earth no longer remembers how to make. And that extinction carries a price in a world flooded with abundance. Ranked second, Musgravite. The asset that refused to be seen. It doesn't gleam like a diamond. It doesn't radiate like sapphire. And it never begs to be noticed. Musgravite doesn't want your attention. It only wants distance. Discovered in 1967 in the barren Musgrave Ranges of South Australia, this gemstone emerged not with celebration, but confusion. Initially, it was misclassified as taffeta, its chemical cousin. Years passed before scientists realized they were looking at something far rarer, more elusive, and almost impossible to cut. Even today, fewer than 20 gem-quality musgravites are faceted globally each year. That's not sales, that's production. Some years, less than 5. Most of what is found is too fractured, fibrous, or opaque to become anything more than a specimen under glass. But occasionally, a piece emerges. Subtle gray with hints of olive or violet, and something happens when the light hits it just right. It doesn't sparkle, it stares back. Musgravite belongs to a tier of investment few ever reach, not because the stone is expensive, but because it's absent. Its scarcity isn't just geological, it's practical. There are no public mines consistently producing it, no predictable supply chain, no marketing campaign, no consumer-grade jewelry line, just whispers among gemologists, collectors, and museums about the few that made it out. And that's precisely why it matters. As of 2025, per-carat prices for transparent musgravite have quietly breached $30,000 to $50,000, depending on origin and clarity. But nearly all transactions occur off-market, through private placement, sealed vaults, or legacy transfers. This gemstone doesn't move with news cycles. It exists outside of them. And before 2026, the dynamic is shifting again. Not because more is being found, but because more investors are realizing how little of it was ever available. This isn't a stone that will ever headline auctions. It doesn't scale. It doesn't trend. But for those who acquire it quietly and patiently, Musgravite becomes less of a gem and more of a silence that gains value. Because some assets don't ask to be seen. They wait to be understood. In the first place, Alexandrite, the stone that holds the crown in the secret. Some stones reflect status, a few define a legacy, but only one stands where color, empire, and scarcity converge, and waits to be recognized again. Alexandrite. It was born not in commerce but in ceremony, pulled from the mountains of Imperial Russia in 1830 on the eve of the future Tsar Alexander II's coming of age. Its colors match the royal army, green by day, red by candlelight. To a nation steeped in transformation, it became a symbol and sign, strength and shift, future and fate. But time moved on. Empires fell, and Alexandrite, like the dynasty it once adorned, faded from sight. Yet it never lost its power, because Alexandrite does what no other gemstone truly can. It transforms, not gradually, not metaphorically, but instantly, a complete metamorphosis of color that no screen can faithfully capture. By daylight, it's deep forest green. By incandescent light, it flares to blood red, raspberry, and even royal purple. Not with hints or undertones, but with conviction. It is as if the stone has a mind and chooses when to reveal it. This isn't a visual trick, it's atomic structure. Chromium inside its lattice causes an absorption spectrum that is so precise that it has baffled labs for over a century. It's a scientific phenomenon, packaged as jewelry. But Alexandrite is not for jewelry, not anymore. Less than 1% of Alexandrite in the global market displays substantial, vivid, saturated color change. Even fewer are above 2 carats and untreated. And of those, the finest Russian origin stones, those cut in the 19th century and passed through royal hands, are now beyond valuation. Modern sources in Brazil, Sri Lanka, and East Africa offer new hope. But hope is not abundance. Annual global production of fine Alexandrite is measured in grams, not kilograms, not carats, grams. And yet, the market still lags behind its rarity. Despite auction results breaching $70,000 per carat, Alexandrite has yet to reach mainstream pricing parity with top-tier ruby or emerald. This is the inefficiency that won't last, because scarcity is finally catching attention. And when that happens, the price will no longer reflect opportunity, it will reflect regret. By 2026, collectors, funds, and sovereign wealth portfolios will have recalibrated their gemstone holdings. Alexandrite won't just be a gemstone, it will be an index of taste, patience, and power. This is not a stone that sparkles. This is a stone that speaks, across centuries, across empires, across light itself. And now it speaks to you. The crown is no longer on a monarch's head. It's in your hands, but not for long. Not all values can be measured. Not all wealth can be tracked. Some assets were never meant to be traded in broad daylight. They were meant to be held, silently, strategically, and before the world wakes up to them. These 10 gemstones aren't just beautiful. They aren't just rare. They are time-locked stores of value, forged under conditions that may never exist again. You've seen what's hidden. You've seen what's rising. But the most important thing you've seen is time. Because markets move. But scarcity moves faster. By 2026, these stones will not be more available. They will be less negotiable. And when access disappears, the price becomes irrelevant. Because you'll either hold the gem or the story of how you missed it. In the comments, let us know which one resonates with you, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this.